I think Texas A&M heading to Oxford to play Ole Miss could be a trap game for Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Getting ready for this Ole Miss game. We've moved on past the South Carolina game. Aggies coming off a big victory. Now you got to get ready to head to Oxford to take on Ole Miss, take on Lane Kiffin. And I noticed something. I'm going to be honest with you. I hadn't noticed until just now, and I don't know if this is being discussed as much as it should be. Ole Miss has to play Georgia the week after they get done with Texas A&M. So not this upcoming Saturday, because that's when the Aggies are in town. But after this weekend, when Ole Miss plays Texas A&M, next weekend they have to get in the bus and head on down to Athens to take on the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. You talk about a trap game. This has the perfect making for a trap game. An early kickoff, an 11 kickoff, noon kickoff, wherever you're at. Then you have to try and win that game and then go play the Georgia Bulldogs. No, that is the exact definition of a trap game. And a lot of times, trap games are against we play Mississippi State and then Bama next week. And, so we're looking past Mississippi State. So knowing that this is a trap game against, Texas A&M, that is a solid, talented football team, my opinion on the matter is as follows. I think narratives in football games are a big deal. If it's like it's this guy's return game, or, this guy played for the Falcons for 10 years and it was there's bad blood between him and the organization, and now he's back playing for the Jets and he's angry. Narratives lead to good performances. I'm a believer in narratives affecting football games. This being a trap game, and like I said, I haven't heard it discussed much, but those are the things that if the word trap game gets pushed into people's heads, if it gets to the Ole Miss locker room somehow, that's how you start to kind of, overthink things. And I just look at this, and I think that we've talked about the importance of this game for Texas A&M. This game is everything. This game needs to be your Super Bowl. This game needs to be your everything. You gotta come out firing to where the fans are like, "No, this is their Super Bowl. They're putting everything into this." We always hear that excuse. We need to see that kind of fire from Texas A&M, because you got to win this game. You're shot at 9-3. Obviously, as I joked yesterday, if you want to go 9-3, you can't lose again. But the importance, I talked about yesterday how I think if you want to go at least, if you don't go 9-3, I have just this weird feeling that if they lose to Ole Miss, they're going to lose to LSU too. You got to win this football game. Not going to be easy. It's a good team. Ole Miss is a good football team. Their defense, we talked about a lot of people talk about that. Well, Ole Miss and LSU are the two teams that they have a great offense, but they play no defense. Ole Miss's defense is fine. It's not the best in the conference. It's not elite. It's not the best defense. It's not the best defense of all time, but it is a fine defense in the SEC on top of what they have on offense. It's a good Ole Miss football team. Lane Kiffin's put together a good team. You've got to be careful with this team. I've talked about, so now we're going to kind of run through some things that you got to do to win this game. First thing, and it's kind of similar to what we talked about last Saturday with Spencer Rattler, you got to slow dart. Dart is a good quarterback. I was not last year what we saw from Dart, and then knowing that Lane Kiffin went to get a couple guys from the portal. He went to get Sanders, and he went to get somebody else. I think it might have been that LSU guy. But went to get a couple guys in the portal. That's why in the offseason I was like, does Kiffin not like Dart? Has Dart not played up to Coach Kiffin's expectations? What's going on there? But then Dart won the job, and he's been good. He has this Ole Miss football team in a good spot. So, I mean, you have to be careful with him. Let's pull up Dart's numbers on the year and run through those. So Jaxon Dart, he is 136 for 212 on the year, 64.2 completion percentage, 2,080 yards, 14 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Now, he also runs the football, 85 for 326, 3.8 yards per carry, 68. He had a 68-yard run. Wow. And then 7 touchdowns on the ground. So 14 through the air, 7 on the ground for Ole Miss's quarterback, Jaxon Dart, which once again, I feel bad when I don't say this when I talk about him. That is the most awesome quarterback name, Jaxon Dart. I just have to always say that. But yeah, Dart has been good this year. He's been sacked 19 times. That's one of those things. They've played 8 games. But I like seeing it. You hate seeing the quarterback where it's like, well, he's only been sacked 7 times on the year. Nobody can get to him. 19 sacks proves to me that you can get after this guy, especially when you're Texas A&M and you have one of the best pass rushes in all college football, especially all the SEC. So, stopping Dart is going to be key, just like we saw with Spencer Rattler. We don't want to see a 275-3 through the air and 84 on the ground and a touchdown stat line from Dart, because if you see that stat line, you're going to lose the game. Plain and simple. You will lose this football game if he puts up big numbers. You have got to slow him, which is going to come down, and we'll talk about this when we talk about matchups, games within the game. But secondary the pass rush is going to have to bother him, be in his face all game, make him make mistakes, sack him a bunch, and then the secondary's got to hold up. I mean, I know we're beating the drum, but you got to hold up. If the secondary doesn't hold up, you're not going to win this game. He will pick you apart, and it will be easy. End of story. You will lose this game to Ole Miss if the secondary has a Miami or Alabama type game. They have got to be ready to go. They have got to lock in. They have got to play good football in the secondary. The next thing I have here that is going to be important in this game is Lane Kiffin's analytics. We hear it all the time. It's one of those cliche sounding things. But Lane Kiffin, I mean, if it's 4th and 3 or less, he'll go for it on his own 1-yard line. I mean, that's obviously a joke, but he will go for it. That's why I just don't like playing against Lane Kiffin, because you feel like you've gotten the stop, and then here we go, that he's on his own 47 going for it 4th and 4. Like he's going to do it. You got to be ready for it. You have to know that he's going to go for it. When he gets, inside the 40s, inside his 40 and Texas A&M's 40, he's going to go for it a lot. When it's 4th and 4, 4th and 3, anything less than that, he's going to go for it. You got to know that. You got to be ready for that. You have to be prepared for that. If you're not prepared for it, it's going to be difficult to, understand it. Now, the other positive to that is that it sets up your team in good field position a lot. They're not going to get it every time. I mean, if I had to put $10 on it right now, I'd say that they get set up. I'd say they go for it on 4th down like 5 times in this game around, if you stop them 2 or 3 of those times, you're going to be set up with good field position. Good field position a few times in this game. Now, obviously, if they go for it on your 24, it's different than if they go for it on their own 47. Like the field position is different there, but they go for it between those 40s a lot, which will set you up with good field position if you can make a stop. That's going to be a key. He loves it. He loves going for it. That being he being Coach Kiffin, he just loves going for it on 4th down. You got to be ready for it. Got to be prepared for it, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. He loves it. He loves analytics. It gets annoying playing them because we know, well, we got to stop 4 downs. Unless you stop them before they get to the 40, watch out because they're going. So that's going to be part of this game. 4th down stops is going to be, we're going to talk about keys to a victory. I'm willing to bet that I'm going to have stopping Ole Miss on 4th down as a big key to victory for the Aggies on Saturday. We're going to talk about some more things you have to do to win this football game, like stopping the ever so great Quinshon Judkins. We'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, we're going to talk about our wonderful friends over at Game Time. I talk about it all the time. Game Time is the best place to get all of your tickets, last-minute tickets to concerts, comedy, sporting events. Anything you need a ticket to, they got you. I absolutely love Game Time. It's just, they beat people's prices. That's what matters. Stuff's expensive right now. Stuff's expensive. Bills are expensive. Game Time lets you be able to go to a ball game for cheaper. It's a ton of fun. It's awesome to be able to go to a game and go, okay, if I would have bought my ticket on this website, I would have paid $34 more, but I got it on Game Time for cheaper. I love using Game Time. It just gives you cheaper tickets. It is absolutely the best way to go get all your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So some more things that Texas A&M is going to have to do to win this game against Ole Miss on Saturday. The first being, stop Judkins. Quinshon Judkins is one of the best running backs in the SEC. He is kind of heating up back-to-back 100-yard games, but he kind of got off to a slow start that not many people were anticipating. He's a really good running back. I think that you've got, when it comes to best running backs in the conference, I think you've got Davis at Kentucky and then Judkins. I mean, I think it's pretty simple as that. Those guys are 2 great running backs, but I'm taking Judkins. I'm taking Judkins over Davis. He's a good running back, and that is what scares me. I feel like Texas A&M has played a bunch of teams this season that you look at it, and it's like, well, they're okay against the run, but they can't throw it. That'd be like a team like Auburn. Or you could say that about a team like Arkansas, but it seems like Arkansas just can't do anything anymore. But point is, this team can throw it, and this team can run it, and you got to watch out. The word balance is a word we use a ton here on Locked On Aggies, but this Ole Miss team is balanced. They can beat you in every facet of offense. They move it through the air, move it to the ground. You got to be ready to go for Judkins. He's just a really good football player. If you don't watch out for him, you're going to be in trouble. So, it's one of those, I always say, you're not going to stop him. You're not going to stop Judkins. You can slow Judkins. Passing attack, like you can stop Dart. Like I said, Spencer Rattler, that was stopping him. That wasn't slowing him. That was stopping him. Whatever he had, $175, that's stopping him. Dart, you can stop Dart. Judkins, no, he's going to get his. He's going to get his. Bend, don't break. Hold them to like 85, 100 yards. Just don't let them have the 204 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns type of day. Don't let it happen. He's going to have 80, 90, 100. He's going to. It's just going to happen. They're going to feed him. They're going to run the football. It's what's going to happen. You just can't let him explode for a big game. The other thing about Judkins is he breaks tackles. He's going to run for 4 and 5 yards. Don't let him run for 12 and 13 yards. That is what you have got to avoid when you're playing against Quinshon Judkins. 4 or 5 yards, we can live with it. Don't love it, but we can live with it. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that you can't have it. You can't let him really break these runs. You've got to slow him. You can't let him put up those big runs, or it's going to be hard to win this football game. So the Ole Miss also has 3 receivers that are over 500 yards. So they spread the ball out. They get the football to a lot of different guys when it comes to the receiver room. They feed a whole bunch of guys. You've got to be prepared for that. You got to know. And the thing I don't like about that, I almost like playing a team that just has a guy, like a Neighbors over at LSU, or Leggett last weekend at South Carolina. There's others, Luther Bertrand at at Missouri. I almost like that because you can kind of just game plan for them. You can double team them. You can bracket them. You can chip them. You can do things to slow them. When you have three guys that are talented wide receivers, there's not much you can do about that. I mean, at that point, any one of these guys can beat you on any given night. You have to know that, and you have to be ready to go for that. I don't know what the game plan will be for that. Coach Judkins going to have to come up with something special because this is not going to be an easy thing to stop when you've got this many talented players. So we need to see something. We need to see them, Texas A&M, slow this Ole Miss wide receiver room. Not going to be the easiest ask in the world. Once again, this is a good wide receiver room, a good quarterback throwing the football. But here's the deal. We talked about it a lot. If they burn you for, 110, 80, and 75 yards between the three of them, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. So you got to try and slow these guys. Secondary's got to be ready for the ball to get spread to a whole bunch of different players. So speaking of Ole Miss, they're third in the SEC in total offense. They average 474 yards per game on offense, 286 passing yards per game on offense, and then 187 rushing yards per game on offense. So once again, that's a pretty balanced attack. Almost 300 through the air, almost 200 on the ground. They can do it in both ways. You got to be ready for it. The other thing I've got here is Ole Miss is a good kicker. I know, not like we can game plan for that, but you have to know if they stall anywhere from the, let's think, I always do the math, 35-yard line, add 10 is 45, add 7 is 52. So anywhere the 35 and in, they can kick it, and they can kick it well. You got to know that. I know we don't sit here and talk about having a good kicker a lot, but at the end of the day, this guy's, I think he's missed 3 field goals. I think he was 13 for 16, and he hasn't missed an extra point. So this guy can kick, and you got to be ready to go for that. If they're within the 35, they're going to put 3 points up on the board, unless Lane Kiffin goes for it. So, that is something to pay attention to, something to know that, we got to be careful. We got to try and get some sacks, get some turnovers once they get the football in Texas A&M's side of the 50, because if you don't, they're going to make field goals if they don't go for it. So you got to be ready for it. The next thing I have here is Ole Miss has a talented pass rusher in Jared Ivey, 5.5 sacks on the year. Good pass rusher. Watch the tape on him. He intimidates me a little bit. Big guy, 6'5". He can get after you. So you got to be ready for that. They don't get, like I said, they I think, let me pull the number on that for the season. Unless I already did. No, but let me pull the sack number. Oh, yeah, I already did. Yeah, we talked about it. It was 30. No, I have it here. 30 sacks, 3.75 sacks per game. So Ole Miss is going to get after you. Ironically, the Ole Miss, or the Texas A&M we talked about yesterday, PFF grades were bad. The PFF grades were bad, but the pass blocking grades were better. Max Johnson still was hit a handful of times, still was sacked a handful of times, but hopefully that's a good omen for a step in the right direction. So that's a positive for me. Maybe this offensive line can be better, but Ole Miss 30 sacks on the year. They're averaging 3.75 sacks a game. That's a good number. That's a good number. You got to be ready for it. They're going to get a little bit of pressure. The offensive line has got to have a good game. They've got to give Max Johnson time. You just have to give Max time. If Max has time, I'm still a believer he can pick you apart, but he's got to have time. And since he's taken over for Connor Wigman, he hasn't had time. You got to give him time. The last thing I have here, I'm not a believer in the Ole Miss environment. I'm not. I'll tell you this. It's Halloween weekend. We all know what Halloween weekend means for the college kids. That means a lot of alcohol, a lot of adult beverages, a lot of partying, big old 3-day bender. Now you have to kind of lock it in, and get ready for this weekend. It ain't easy. You got your internal organs yelling at you. A lot going on there. Now, I'm obviously kidding, but my point is I just don't think the environment at Ole Miss is great. I just don't. It's not a road environment that intimidates me. Playing in Baton Rouge at 7 or 6 o'clock, that scares me. That is terrifying. Playing in Oxford at night, it doesn't scare me. I'm not scared by that environment. So, that's just something to pay attention to. I'm not terrified of the Ole Miss environment, but these are the things that the Aggies are going to have to do to win the game, or are going to have to pay attention to. We'll talk about biggest matchups and keys to a win throughout the week, but those are the things immediately that jump off the page at me, and I go, okay, we got to pay attention to this. Texas A&M played Texas Tech in a scrimmage the other day and lost. We're going to run through the stat lines. We're going to run through the box score. We're going to talk about some numbers that need to be better for the rest of the season coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, we have got to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. The basketball team did indeed have a scrimmage. They took on Texas Tech, and they did not win. The Aggies lose this game 84-89. The numbers we're going to run through here. Now, of course, you're playing without Marble. We do not have an update on that situation. I'll keep y'all in the know with what I know, and as of right now, it's not much. Buzz is keeping this kind of like Coach Fisher does. He's keeping this close to him. So I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know when we're going to know what's going on there. But so Wade Taylor had 25 points. He was 5 for 13 from the field, but he was 4 for 9 from the three-point line, 11 for 14 from the free throw line. Then you had Boots was 5 for 11, 1 for 3 from the three-point line, 1 for 1 at free throws, 12 points. Hefner, 6 points, 2 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. Then you got the transfer. Lawrence only had 2 points on 1 of 2 shooting. He did have 5 rebounds in 13 minutes. Henry Coleman, 7 of 14, 16 points, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 1 assist. Not a ton of assists in this game. Only 8 assists, which is, I kind of look at that and I go, wow, that's not a ton of assists. So you lose the assist battle. Texas Tech had 16 and you had 8. So they doubled you up on assists. That's something to monitor. We'll say that. But the numbers that stood out to me immediately, Wade Taylor, here's the deal. He's a guy, 5 for 13. You go, well, keep shooting because he's going to make shots. 25 points, 5 for 13, 4-9 from 3. He's going to figure it out. He's going to score. Keep shooting. He's a guy, I'm not going to be mad at him for taking a shot. If he's having a game where he's off, keep shooting because they're going to fall. Keep shooting. 14 turnovers in this game. I mean, that's a lot. I think you actually won the turnover battle. Oh, no, you didn't. Tech only had 10 turnovers. But 14 turnovers, you've got to be better. You can't turn the football. We're in football mode. You can't turn the basketball over 14 times. That number needs to be reduced a lot, especially knowing this is a veteran team. You would think that, older guards, you don't turn I keep saying football. You don't turn the basketball over as much when you have veteran guards. And that's what we discussed as to why we're so excited about this basketball season is because you're a team full of veterans. So 14 turnovers is too many. Once again, the first thing I want to say, and I should have led with this, everybody, Aaron Rodgers, relax. I truly, I'll be honest, I am in no way concerned about this. Texas Tech shot the ball well. It's going to happen. They shot 41% from 3, 14 for 34. It's going to happen. Teams are going to make threes. This stuff happens all the time. I'm not concerned about this game. I'm really not. I think that this team's going to be fine. I think the Aggies are going to be okay. But the things that need to get cleaned up, like I said, 14 turnovers is too many. 22 of 33 from the free throw line. You got to be better than that. That's 10 points. I always say this, it's cliche, but you lose by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You lose by 5 points. You make 6 of those free throws, you win the game. I know we can't sit here and do that, but that's what I'm saying. You got to make free throws. Then you're in the second half, you're 3 from 13 from 3, 7 for 23 overall. That number, I'd like to see a little higher percentage. What was it? 30% from 3, 7 for 23. I'd like to see a little bit higher 3-point percentage than that going forward, but it is what it is. Then you out-rebounded Texas Tech 42-28. I do love to see that. Texas Tech did have 21 points off turnovers, which I don't love to see that. And Texas A&M had 22 bench points, which is not a lot of bench points. Well, I mean, Texas Tech had 33. But the way I look at this is when you're a team full of veterans that you want in the basketball game a lot, 22 points off the bench. And, college, they score 80 points, so let's say you score 80 points a game. That, around about 60 coming from your starters, 20 coming from your bench. I can live with that. Some teams like it to be closer to like 50 and 30. I can live with 16, 20. I'm not going to be upset about it. But to sum this up before we call it a day, I am not concerned about this. I'm really not. I don't think it's a big deal. If y'all are concerned about it, let me know in the comments. Are you concerned about the basketball team losing in this scrimmage exhibition game? I'm not concerned about it. Texas Tech shot lights out from deep. The Aggies didn't have their best offensive game. Turned the ball over a little bit. Didn't make your free throws. These are things that can be and will be fixed. I'm not concerned. Season starts soon, and I'm not worried, frankly, about this. Let me know in the comments, though, if you are concerned about it. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for tuning in every single day. I appreciate it a ton. Have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.